Hey you guys, good evening. I would like to talk about numbers and the Bible. Not the numbers chapter in the Bible, but actual numbers. As in 3, 4, 7, and 12. The reason why Judah was chosen is because Judah was the fourth child of Israel. Israel, we need to understand that Israel is a nation. Israel had 12 sons, therefore 12 nations. So from one nation came many nations. From one person came many people. The people of God, the people who believe in the God that spoke to Moses and spoke to our patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. If we believe in that God, which is the one and true God who created all, then we need to understand that Israel is that human being from where we came from. The reason why Judah was chosen is because Judah was the fourth child. Because if you remember what happened with Joseph, all his brothers betrayed Joseph. Joseph was Jacob's favorite. And this is why the last of Joseph, being Ephraim, is one with Joseph, because Joseph, even though Joseph is the 11th and not the 12th, he was the favorite. And in that, Joseph forgave all of his brothers and reunited Jacob and his children. Jacob also adopted the two of Joseph as his own, and did to Israel, Jacob did the same to Joseph as his father had done to him. Blessed him over his brother, or not over, but prioritized him, blessed him first, I should say. So Jacob followed that, and also to fulfill the law, that the last will be the first, and the first will be the last. So this is why Israel, having had that one-on-one, face-to-face with God, encounter with God, had to fulfill the law, that the last will be the first. With that being said, this is why Judah was chosen. When we talk about Israel, we now need to limit ourselves to the Jews in Israel, the country. We need to understand that Israel is Jacob, the son of Isaac, the son of Abraham. And so we come from that. Judah was chosen because he was the fourth. And the number 3, the number 4, the number 12 are numbers that you will see in the Bible over and over again. The 7 spirits of God, the 7 eyes, the 7 everything, right? And 4 and 3. The reason why the Levites as well is a very important tribe is not only because they were the priests, but they were chosen to be the priests because they are the 3rd tribe, the 3rd child of Jacob. So they were chosen to be priests because of the order of their birth. So Yeshua is both. He is, or she, meaning Yeshua, we are the body of Christ. We are the body of Christ. We say the Son of Man because it's the child, the human child, that grows into a man, an adult, or a woman, an adult. An adult, a child that grows into an adult. A human child that becomes a human adult. The Son of God is because it's the child of God. We are children of God's light. Israel, Jacob had 12. And the reason why he had 12 is because that's the way it was meant. That is exactly how many children he was meant to have. Benjamin, the last, was the miracle baby. He was meant to be, and the last will be the first. But also Ephraim, who is the last through adoption, through Joseph, who was the favorite son, he's also in, and he's the firstborn of the Spirit. There's the 4 living creatures. Living. We live with God, not without. We live as the son or daughter of God through faith in the Spirit that lives in us. This is a gift. The Spirit is a gift. It's a gift from God. So, this has been revealed to me. I'm not a mathematician, but even a mathematician, very well-known mathematician, who was an atheist himself, was wise enough, because in the Bible it clearly states that you can sin against the Son of God. You can even be dishonest about the Son of God. But if you're dishonest about the Spirit, that's not for something that God can forgive, because you are lying to humanity, and you're going to make them commit an error. This is why there's a big difference. We as a humanity know that we lie on a regular basis. Are you hungry? No. When you really are. Are you on a diet? No. Do you like this dress? Yes. Am I fat? No. Do I have too much makeup on? No. How much do you weigh? 100 and Oh, 100 pounds, yeah. Sure. That's the nature of humanity, folks. God knows that. But you lie about the Holy Spirit and you're committing a crime against God and the Holy Spirit. So I'm just here to tell you that. When I tell you that I see God's glory in Paul and Jeremiah, I'm not making this up. When I tell you what I experienced in Mr. and Mrs. Miller's house in 2018, both experiences which I documented and I shared with you on Facebook, I was not even exaggerating. I documented it as soon as I possibly could, as not to leave any details out. And as you can see from the moment I wrote it, I didn't alter it. It is what it is. It has been written. My experience. The truth was pulled out of me. So, I'm here to tell you I did not grow up in a Christian household or a Jewish household, obviously, in Panama. My parents gave me the freedom to believe in God or not. I knew God existed. I just knew. Nobody had to teach me that. The only thing that I will say is that it helped to have my godmother's mother teach me about Jesus, because when she told me that Jesus would return during my generation, that she would be gone by then, and I just knew that that was going to happen. I just had no doubt, and I looked forward to it. And I identify with that. I identified with Jesus. I identified that, okay, I'm going to see Jesus when I'm an adult. I'm going to see Jesus. My generation is going to experience Jesus Christ with us. I just knew. But I quit praying to God when I joined the military, and I distanced myself from God. And I felt dark energy around me when I was in the military. When I was living in the dorms, I would feel this dark energy hovering over me, almost like sucking my life out of me. Sucking my life out of me. It was a dark energy, something hovering, something dark and sinister. And I could feel it. I couldn't see it because I never opened my eyes. I never opened my eyes. I was so, at the time, I was frightened. At the time. Because I was not close to God. I was not close to God. No. Had I prayed about it and gotten reacquainted with my Papa, this negative energy would not have affected me. I am sure of it. But everything that happens for a reason. So God allowed it to happen. So it kind of goes both ways. I take responsibility for not having had a stronger faith or gotten down on my knees and prayed for a miracle. But I was not a righteous young lady either. I had a boyfriend, and he was, we were sexually active. I know it's like a normal youthful thing to do, but really it was not righteous. It was not. My high school sweetheart, yes. This second boyfriend I had in between the high school sweetheart and my marriage, no. That was a very dark period. And when I joined the military, and my health was affected. It was like a combination of things. My second boyfriend, I'm not going to say that he was a bad person, but he was not walking in a good light either. So it affects your surrounding, affects you, the company affects you. Absolutely. If you're not strong in your faith, it will affect you. If you're strong in your faith, it still affects you, but it doesn't have that devastating effect on your health, because you're able to see, okay, I'm stronger than this. I'm stronger than this. My faith is stronger than this. And you overcome it. And at the time, and this is a message for young people, you know, I do believe that we shouldn't be rushing to get married. No. But if you love your high school sweetheart and you grew up together and you're in the same neighborhood or the same school, I believe that that's far safer than going out there in the world and for whenever you get mature. Let me tell you something that happens. When people grow and develop together, they grow and develop together and they become accustomed to one another. When you mature separately and you meet people, they have been with others and they have been with other people and probably haven't been consistently with that other person. And so you meet and you get married and it may or may not work the same as if you would have married younger. I mean, our divorce rate is high in America. And I haven't read any literature, and you're welcome to highlight it for me, but as far as I'm concerned, I don't believe that there's a benefit to getting married when to somebody who's been a perfect stranger your whole life. I don't believe. I believe that had I married my high school sweetheart, it would have been a lot easier and a lot healthier for me. But had I married my high school sweetheart, I wouldn't have had my children. So I'm not regretting it, because everything that is was meant to be. What I have always desired is to be a mom, to be a married mom, and even as a single mom, I desire to be a mom. I didn't desire to be single, but I desired to be a mom. And I was disappointed with the lack of support in my community where I was at in Mobile. Because I saw people that were there illegally and people that had come from other countries and had remarried and left their children behind and gotten married again, and all of this was not criticized. People coming from another state and having miracles performed and the spectacle about Christianity, when here I am asking for a job and people were bulldozing me over. No. That's hypocrisy. as somebody put it. Not hypocrisy, but hypocrisy. In our faces. No wonder why so many young people lose their faith. I believe that pastors have a great responsibility to make sure that their youth has a strong faith in God. I believe that they have a great responsibility. Yes, of course, those children have to take personal responsibility for their actions, but it is the job and the duty of a pastor who has taken an oath to serve God. It is their duty to make sure that the youth does not disrespect God and mocks God. Another thing that happens is as men and women get older, I'm not saying that there's no hope, that you cannot find somebody that you can fall in love with, or that's when, if you didn't meet somebody when you were younger that you were interested in getting married to, there's nothing wrong with that. What I am saying is, I don't believe that there's a benefit in purposely waiting. And the same thing for having children. I believe that, that if you're in a situation where you can have children in a marriage, don't wait forever to have children, because it gets more challenging later in life. This was brought up to me by a doctor I worked with in the infertility clinic. He was only a resident. A lot of these doctors, I really, I respect doctors, because that is a very challenging profession. It's not for the average person. Not only do you have to have the desire to help people, but you have to be dedicated. You have to be able to stay up crazy hours and take little naps. You have to be able to wear a cap, gowns and masks and gloves and all kinds of being up on your feet for a long time. So you have to love what you do and do what you love. But I respected all of the doctors that I worked with. There was not a doctor that I didn't like. And they were most of them married. And so I really felt comfortable in that, environment. But my calling was something else. My calling was not to stay in the medical field. My calling was to take what I had learned and apply it to the restaurant industry. Take the smoke outside, have a menu with different diets for the different people, and that was that. It was supposed to be simple and proper hand washing in a kitchen where everybody could see, and a deep porch outside for smokers. That was what I thought, and what I think still today is my calling. So, with that being said, one of the residents that I worked with, and they were all married and already had children. These were young men in their late 20s, early 30s, had already been married and had children. And this particular doctor said to me, it's a shame that some of these women just wait, until they have a career and are established in their career, and they have pushed, like they have ignored their biological needs, and then they're having issues with, fertility. But this was his personal opinion. He didn't come out and say it to everybody. It was just one-on-one. I'm not going to disclose his name because it's irrelevant. I'm sure that a lot of them thought that way. But I took it in, and I was like, made a note of it. So when I got married, I was 23 when I got married, and I immediately wanted to have children. I didn't want to wait forever. I wanted to have my children while I was young and fertile. And when I had Jacob, I was like almost 25 years old. When I had Alexander, I was almost 36 years old. So I was like pushing it. Because after 35, as we know, there are risks. I'm not saying that women in their 40s shouldn't be having babies, or women but I feel that you do what you love and love what you do. It's nobody else's business to tell you when or how, right? So when I got married to Robert, Jacob's father, I wanted to have a child almost immediately. So it took us a year to get pregnant, and then naturally. But make a long story short, folks, I believe it would have been easier for me to have married my high school sweetheart, because there was an innocence in that. He was a virgin, I was a virgin. We lost our virginity to one another. It was something that didn't happen out of lust. It didn't happen, right away. We were two kids who had our heads on right. And there was nothing perverted, nothing unusual about this relationship at all. And what I have found out there, by just having been out there, out of the will of God, that there's a lot of perversion among men. And I believe that when a man doesn't get married by a certain age, it's like a downhill spiral. What happens to a man if they're not married by a certain age? They resort to perversion. And I believe that that's where the woman is a gift to a man, and that they can save a man, they can balance a man, and they can give them a family. Even if there's no children, you can still be each other's family. In the warmth of the home, with the love of each other. So I see a lot of mental illness and a lot of drug addiction among the youth. I feel that there's a disconnect sometimes with the child-parent relationship. And this is because the parents were so career-driven. They were so career-driven that the children grew up with microwaves and video games and basically raising themselves, while the parents were, especially, somebody has to stay home and take care of the children. I believe, even if it's not full-time, at least be there. And what DHR has purposely done, and what they're doing purposely, is they're removing children, passing them around, and then breaking the kids even more to use these kids, and then give them to people who don't care about the children, just put them in daycare, after school care. This is perversion. When I lived with Mr. and Mrs. Miller, I made it abundantly clear to them that I wanted to bring my son with me, because DHR should have never removed my son, because I was not potentially suicidal. And what was said in court was that, and you can hear it from the recording, that I was talking about having lived with Charity, and my son wasn't returned to me when I lived with Charity, because I knew right there and there was something wishy-washy about that. And I went to Miss Miller because this is a Christian lady. She had a healing room in Mobile, and her husband had already done this kind of work with, these children, these foster kids in the past. And I started learning more and more as I conversed with her. She threw my baby shower when I was pregnant with Alexander, along with the ladies from the International Ladies Team in Mobile. I wasn't whoring around in Mobile. Okay? One of the ladies from Ladies Tea had left her daughter in South America, came to the United States with her new husband, and then divorced him and remarried a third time, and her daughter by then was grown, had stayed back home in South America with her mother, so the grandmother. When Susan Valerino does something, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong. Well, I'm here to tell you folks, I ain't here to be crucified for you. No, cannot do it. Because that already happened. Believe in me. Okay? My son, Alexander, is not your sacrifice. You want to sacrifice something? Sacrifice yourself. And this is a message to all ladies from International Ladies, from South America, from North America, from the Middle East, from wherever you are, and everybody in Mobile, and in everybody in my family, and everybody from the church, and everybody in Montgomery. I did not come to Montgomery to preach. No. I came here to Montgomery to speak. And there's a difference. There's a difference. I had the truth pulled out of me when I lived with Mr. and Mrs. Miller. And what was said in court is that I didn't want to cooperate with the Millers and that I wasn't working. That is a right down lie from Miss Mack to Judge Naaman. She lied in court. That's called perjury. As far as I'm concerned, no matter how you look at it, that is against y'all's own laws. And this happens in court all the time. Especially with these DHR cases. Okay? So she lied. And I wasn't even able to speak. When I was in court that very first time, I brought my papers with me, which weren't very many. I had very little paperwork. I had my psychological evaluation paperwork that I had filled out. Not the results, because the results, they refused to give me my results. Which I should have been entitled, and I am entitled as a patient. So you tell me there's nothing wishy-washy about this. I am being used for this crap. My son Alexander's being used for this political baloney among you. How much longer? Y'all preach about the Jesus who was crucified. that already happened. And if the Jews don't want to accept it, it's irrelevant because it did happen already. If we're going to have a physical crucifixion of one person for the sin of humanity, y'all are committing a crime because that's called murder. Okay? I will highlight it for you. So, it was said in court that I was not cooperating with the Millers. It was never said to me, explained to me, in court or afterwards, what cooperating means. What do they mean by I'm not cooperating? Or that I wasn't cooperating? As an excuse not to return my son. I offered Mr. and Mrs. Miller money to live there. They said, no, just save it for your own apartment. I was not having any assistance from the government. Working full-time, working days and nights and nights and days and days and nights, and we had to check the schedule on a daily basis. And I'm sorry for y'all, but I'm not going to be an idiot in Mobile or anywhere, working a stupid schedule that's robbing me of my mental health, working days and nights and nights and days and days and nights, and with all this psychology BS about me having to check the schedule every day. Because it changes every day. No! Not doing it. This is why I believe in having a good schedule in harmony with your family from day one. So, I also didn't come to live in the South to be exploited, to be mocked, to be being videotaped by various people from various angles to put on a show, a pony show, or a laughing show, or some kind of a buying and selling of humanity among you. It's like, oh yeah, she's over the hill, so she needs to go over there with the older gentleman. Let me tell you something, folks. Have some respect. I'm not here for your buying and selling of me or my child. Y'all are full of it. Look at yourselves in the mirror. You need to look at yourselves in the mirror, okay? And look at your own flaws. And then you tell me what you deserve. Don't be arranging my marriage for me because of what you think it looks good. Because if that's what you're going to do down here in the South, then you shouldn't be complaining about the arranged marriages overseas. From all the people that come, through, even in Mobile, because you bring awareness about these women issues. Oh, these poor ladies are being forced into marriages, with your psychology and your counseling and your religiosity, your Christianity, that views that, paints it on a negative, in a negative way. What are you doing down here? Oh, well, this looks good with that, and that looks good with this. She looks good with this person. No! And when I make a choice and I choose somebody then there's all kinds of backstabbing and sabotaging. I have always desired to be married, and I'm not gay, although I may look gay when I speak like a man, and I may look gay when I have no makeup on and speak like a man, but I'm not. Never desired to be. And for some reason, my sweetheart, he had it in his mind. He was determined to prove that I was gay. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't like to be touched that way, and I'm not gay. I have no disrespect toward gay people. You know, none. If that's what they want to do with themselves, that's between them and God. That's the way God made them, or that's the way they have chosen. I'm not perfect, and neither one of you is perfect. So we shouldn't be going into people's business. But I am opposed to kids being purposely brainwashed into being gay. I am opposed to people changing their sex, especially while they're still growing in development. It is criminal, and no righteous surgeon should be participating in that. They should have their license, medical license, removed. They should not be a surgeon. Because that is criminal, to be operating and changing people's sex when they don't have, they're not a full-grown adult. It's like selling a pack of cigarettes to a minor. Or giving somebody dope when they're little. Or tattooing children. If you want to tattoo yourself when you're grown, that's fine. But don't be tattooing children. All of this stupidity that we have and hypocrisy among us. I'm sick of it. So, somebody needs to explain to me, because when I went to see a pastor at one of the churches I was invited to, I asked to speak to Joanna Gomez, who was also associated with the Ladies' Tea. I contacted her and I said, look, I need to speak because her husband was the coach for my son's soccer team through the Methodist church on Graylot. She was a member of another Methodist church on Azalea and invited me over there because I told her I needed, I was going through this with DHR and that let me tell you how she approached it. Okay? She said basically I had to suck it up with charity, the situation that I was living in. And I told her, look, I'm paying this lady. I didn't know Charity. Charity was my neighbor's daughter who was going through some hardship and needed assistance, and her mother thought that we could help each other mutually. And she thought that maybe Charity could get her foster license and be Alexander's foster parent while I lived with Charity until all this was over. And I knew right then and there, this is not right. This is not right. So this whole thing was concocted before it happened. This is why I reached out to the governor, and I reached out to the Senator Jones, and I reached out to the White House, because I don't play games. Alexander's family came here from Brazil illegally, and they had no relationship with Alexander. So if Alexander's being used as collateral for their free ride over here or for their legality here, I am so sorry for y'all. My son's not going to be paying for your ticket here. My son is an American-born child. I came in here legally as an army dependent. And if y'all hate me because I speak the truth, then you can hate me. I don't care. When I met Alexander's father, I was a homeless veteran living still in Mississippi. They are the ones who brought me to Mobile. That situation. And when I met this family, Alexander's aunt and uncle, they were doing barely making it. Okay, barely making it. Housekeeping, and the father was unemployed. And I have mercy. I have most mercy. Because when people were bringing up to my attention that, oh, look how we're being mistreated, and we're being mistreated, I was even taken to Georgia to meet a young lady who had been incarcerated because she was being picked on by the police officer. When illegal immigrants were being targeted by police officers. And she was treated poorly by the police officer because she had turned in the middle of the night. There was nobody approaching traffic. She was by herself. She made a turn without her turn signal. And that was something that triggered the police officer, and then she was incarcerated for this petty crime. It's not even a crime. It's a traffic violation. That in itself, it's wrong. So I was brought over from Mississippi to Georgia to meet this young lady who needed, some assistance in court. I'm not a lawyer, never claimed to be. I was already dealing with my own issues with Jacob having been taken from me in a wrongful manner in my house, me being kicked out of my own house that I bought with my VA benefits. I had been writing and documenting these long letters, and it was like talking to the wall. Back then, they didn't have Facebook. If they had had Facebook, this wouldn't have turned out this way. My family in Panama would have known what was happening. Because according to a lot of people, I was crazy. These people didn't know what the heck was happening to me in Mississippi. So make a long story short, when I met Alexander's family on his father's side, the uncle was unemployed, and the mom was working as a housekeeper, barely making it. Okay? And I met Alexander's father, who had come back to Mississippi from Texas because he was a construction worker. These are not, the people that I had ever met before. This was all new to me. It was being brought up to my attention that because of Hurricane Katrina, they came from Texas to Mississippi to assist with Hurricane Katrina. It was brought up to my attention that they had come through Mexico illegally and were mistreated in immigration for 2 days. Folks, you have to understand, when people go into another country illegally, how do you expect? You expect everybody and their brother to come here illegally and it be okay? These people brought up to my attention that the reason why they left Brazil is because Brazil had gotten so dangerous. And now I have the very government and these people in cahoots to send my son to use them as collateral for y'all's ticket here? I don't think so. I don't think so. The ones that should be going back to Brazil is y'all. Because Alexander was born and raised here. And if I had wanted to, I could have gone to a clinic and gotten biological material to become a single mom. Okay? Because our women have that right to go into a clinic, and even gay couples go into a clinic and get pregnant. People donate their sperm. And I'm not saying that that's the way it should be done. I'm saying that's the way it has been. And these women have the right to do that. legally. And I'm not gay. But I was deceived. So, Alexander's not y'all's ticket, okay? To the Gentiles. I am the ticket! Me! You hear me? Not my son Alexander. Don't use children as collateral, you bunch of thieves. You bunch of cowards. When were you there for Alexander when I struggled? Were you there to sing happy birthday for Alexander? No, it wasn't you in any of those photographs. It was my friend Natalie and her mama. Auntie in Texas could care less about Alexander when I needed her to watch Alexander for just the summer. So I wouldn't have to send him to my mom, because when my mom got Alexander, she became obsessed with Alexander and wanted to keep him. And every time I would call my mom and ask for my son, to speak with my son, she would say, oh, Alexander's not even missing you. He's not even missing you. He's in timeout right now. He's sleeping. He's busy. I had to deal with that. And I have it all documented. So, you think Alexander's your ticket? You're wrong, Mr. and Mrs. I am. I came in here legally. I worked so hard, okay, for Dr. Duffy. And he knows it. I worked along with the doctors. I stood on my feet. I even had all kinds of health issues, but I worked through it. I was the first person to make it there to the infertility clinic and the last person to leave, because I had to go to night school at Keesler Air Force Base. Okay? It's not like, I didn't want to go to school, I was lazy. No. I even paid into my GI Bill, which I was not able to use after I got out of the military. So, I don't want to hear it from y'all. You think Alexander's your ticket? You're wrong. Don't use kids as your collateral, folks, to get out of debt and to pay y'all's, illegalities. So I had most mercy. I went over there with Alexander's daddy before Alexander was conceived, because he was a conceived pregnancy that was natural. It was with love, and it was desired. Alexander was a desired pregnancy and planned. Okay? I desired Alexander before he was born. I desired Jacob before he was born. Both my kids were conceived the same day, 11 years apart, by God's grace. Because I was blessed with fertility. So, had I not had Alexander, I wouldn't be going through this. But I had him because he was a desired pregnancy and desired child. And I'm not going to let him get shredded by the dogs and fed to the pigs. Because I am not Alexander. Jesus was crucified because blood was shed for y'all. Already happened. Auntie Genesee was in Texas, and I asked her, would you please be there for me for a few, so I can get a job? Because when I called my family in Virginia, nobody was available for me to be there, for me to come and be with them to get a job. And my stepfather should have known what was going on with my record. Why couldn't I get a job? What was going on? Because he worked for the Pentagon. And he always told me since I was a little girl that his job in the military intelligence was the equivalent of the CIA. My stepfather talked to me like an adult since I was a child. He never touched me, molested me in any way, shape, or form, but he spoke to me like an adult. So I learned how men think early on. So that's why I fear none of you. And I believe that CIA agents all over this earth need to be protected by their own governments. And there needs to be an international law that protects them. Because y'all know, and you've said it before from your own mouths, because we are listening for keywords. We're scanning. We're scanning the earth, okay, for key words. And we're reading and we're scanning for key words. And there's some things that trigger it, okay? We're getting paid, trained to lie, cheat, steal. That is the opposite of God. It is the opposite. God is truth and light, not darkness and lies. I don't care how intelligent you are. You're not it. You are part of, but you're not it. The everything that is God, whom I have seen. I am not God. I'm a part of God. And I'm here reporting to you because I have seen his eyes and mouth scintillating before me. I was lifted and you were with me in my hands. And we went through, okay? Through into his womb of his heart in his light that is brighter than the fire that is he. And I'm not making this up. So, we need to find out what happened in court and why was my son not given back to me immediately after he was taken, based on allegations that I was potentially suicidal. Children are not to be used as sacrifice because that sacrifice already happened for y'all. It's the very sacrifice that you're preaching about. You should know better. So, Auntie was not available, my mother was not available, my brother was not available, my sister was not available. I was on my own. And then Andy came along. And I loved Andy very much. I didn't love his drinking, but everybody has something. Everybody drinks something. And I accepted it. I accepted it and I was like, we can work through this. But then it got to be out of hand. And then he was playing video games of the devil, and he told me that he didn't believe in God after we got together. He told me that he didn't believe in God even though he was raised by Catholic parents. Grew up in Catholic private school. His father worked still does for the Catholic diocese. Okay? His mother still works for a Catholic school. He said he didn't believe in God. That he believed, in a higher being. But he didn't believe in Christianity. And he was there in Mobile his whole adult life. He went to school at USA. He graduated in computer science. Very intelligent. I was not going to be hooking up with some hoodlum. Okay? And this happened because Alexander's father chose to leave. And whatever's happening, I'm not for the buying and selling among you. For y'all to be orchestrating whom I'm with and whom I'm not with. Not doing it. All these movie stars, they get married left and right, get married, have children here and there. Nobody's in their business about taking their kids away from them. My children were desired pregnancies, and I have always desired to be married and have my children and live in peace. I don't need everybody and their brother in my house making a mockery out of my life. So when I asked his auntie, she said, I'm busy right now. My grandson was born. and we're busy right now, I'm sorry. Nobody was available. And then my sister took it upon herself to come. It was supposed to be just her, and it was supposed to be temporary. My mother came along. And then my mother wanted to keep Alexander because my sister, it was overwhelmed. My sister was going through her own divorce and her own issues, and she should have been honest with me and said, I'm not able to right now because I'm going through a divorce, or I can help you for just a month. But my sister took it upon herself, volunteered to come and pick up Alexander for 3 months. She even wrote a paper that we had it notarized, that it was going to be her for 3 months. Then my mother got her friend Dibeth involved in it, and then her friend Dibeth advised my mother to get an attorney to take Alexander away from me. And then she herself, her friend, told me, I am so sorry. Had I known you, before I advised your mother to advise Jeff to take your son away from you, because it was based on what your mom was telling me. All of this stuff that y'all are doing, instead of just helping me, going against I will blame the world, but I will not blame God for this. No. Nobody can take my faith away from me. Nobody can take away what I have experienced from me. Some of you came in here through illegal means, and you did not want to be involved with Alexander because you thought that it would compromise your legality. His family in Mississippi was not involved with Alexander because they were bitter about the fact that Alexander's father wanted to go back to Brazil. I was told that they came here from Brazil because in Brazil it had gotten dangerous and there was so much poverty among them as a family. Poverty. They couldn't prosper. And how did Alexander's father become wealthy? Why? How? If y'all are signing a contract with the devil, that's on you. Okay? But I don't want my son involved in that. If you think that you can get wealthy overnight and be right with God, you're highly mistaken. Highly mistaken. If you think that it's going to be so easy to just fix y'all up, okay? Overnight. Because it's signing a contract with the devil. I will own my mistakes, okay? And my suffering, all of it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I own it. I don't need anybody fixing my record for me. And I refuse for this to continue to be done. Because this is how the black market goes around. We fix you up, that means somebody else gets cheated. Where do you think it comes from? Somebody else has to suffer the consequences. If you don't do it right with God, it's not going to get fixed right with God. Ever, ever. And the filth continues to go around this world. So I don't need anybody's record fixed for me because it should have never been sabotaged to begin with. I came in here legally. I joined the military with my naturalization paperwork certificate that was given to me by immigration in Virginia. So, I was honorably discharged. I worked as an infertility clinic manager. I was going to school at night. I got married before I got pregnant with Jacob. The reason why I wanted a divorce from my husband is because he was not respecting me as his equal. So, I put up with it, and I put up with it, and I put up with it. We went to church. I wanted to do marriage counseling. He was not wanting to do that. He didn't believe in marriage counseling. He believed that we were being videotaped by the psychologist. The one and only time we went to a session. So he didn't want to do it. So, our divorce took 5 years when it should have just taken no more than 5 months. I was willing, and I paid an attorney, Julia Jowett. In 2001, I paid her $500, and she said, based on what you're telling me, it doesn't sound like your husband wants a divorce, or easily for that matter. It sounds like this is going to be a contested matter. I have it all documented. My stepfather knows this. My stepfather's the one who finally gave me $2,000 for me to pay Mr. Pisserich $2,000 for a contested divorce. Every time I went to court, I was not allowed to speak. For 5 years, I even switched attorneys. I went to Mr. Pritchard, literally next to each other. Mr. P and Mr. P, next to each other in Biloxi. I could not make this up if I wanted to. Every time I went to court, I was not heard in court. My attorneys were not speaking on my behalf. It was always that attorney, my ex-husband's attorneys, turn to speak because they were the plaintiff. And the whole thing was a game for 5 years. And then what happened here in Mobile, they wanted to do the same. And they did it. It's like a mocking in your face. They're mocking you. Like, you're the idiot. We're here making money. Everybody's making money. The attorneys, the guardian ad litems, the judges, everybody's making money. And you're the idiot. I couldn't leave my child behind because I don't trust any of you. There's too much child pornography and organ harvesting among you. I don't trust not one single human being do I trust. You will do whatever it takes to be legal. You will do whatever it takes to be rich. You will do whatever it takes, right? Yeah. Whatever it takes. Sacrificing children, you murderers. So his family in Mississippi, when I was a homeless veteran, being asked to move out of my own house, I had a woman knock on my door in 2007. When my divorce took from 2001 until 2007. That's 5.5 years of hell. And I reached out to the White House. I said, I did not come here to be exploited. I have my own intelligence. I did not come here to be exploited. I did not like the culture because it seemed to me like there was too much whoredom going around. Okay? I saw it coming. And what does everybody do? Everybody just takes advantage of the situation. It's like looting. Looting a store. Oh, there's riots. Come on, let's go in that business and loot it. When this Lloyd gentleman was murdered, which is horrible, okay? The people who were caught stealing, looting the store were mostly Hispanic people. Caught stealing in the middle of all this. That's a shame! In Panama, when we had Noriega in power, this is why I don't believe in a military police officers. I believe in civilian police officers. Military police officers different. I don't believe, because that's only going to further compromise the police officers. Because doomed if they do and doomed if they don't. Okay? So, you don't understand, people, the pressure. Police officers are doomed if they do and doomed if they don't. And what happens when you've got the military getting involved and handing you weapons and you're being instructed on using those very weapons on people? And then the people hate you and they call you pigs when you're not even the pig. It's y'all, okay, that allow these things to happen. You need to be the change you want to see in the world. So I had a woman knock on my door on Dove Lane and tell me that the judge who had retired had already signed after 5.5 years of fiddle farting in court, sucking up money. Who was paying for this? The church? The government? Who? We need to speak, and you will speak. Who was behind this? Because it wasn't me postponing the divorce. I wanted to continue my education in culinary nutrition and get the heck out of there. Okay? Because it wasn't my culture. I was seeing some dark things. I was seeing wealth among some people and a lot of poverty and a lot of dysfunctionalities in the youth, and the youth not being taken care of, not being properly led. I saw a lot of darkness in the South. I saw a lot of young black people being incarcerated and the youth in general. A lot of drug addiction and a lot of just poverty and meth. And I saw dysfunctionality and lack of leadership. So, I ended up waiting tables because I'm not a prostitute. And I was exploited sexually. I was. And I'm not afraid to say it. This is why I don't ever wish to be 27 again. No. Ever! It was horrible. Horrible! I was a late bloomer. And these people were exploiting me. I wanted to get the heck out of there and continue my education, use my GI Bill, and then come back and open up a restaurant for the community. Because I felt that the time wasn't right at the time. I could feel it. It's not the time. I was told by my professor in college that people in the South did not want to change their ways. They wanted their fried chicken and their greens with bacon, and they were not going to want something else. And I was like, well, this is why we have so much obesity here in the South, and we're having this gastric bypass surgery. And it's like, okay. If that's the way people want it. You want to eat unhealthy so that you can go ahead and just have a surgeon force you to eat a little bit. If you rather do that than go to the gym and eat healthy, okay. But don't call me the enemy. I'm not your enemy. I'm not the enemy of the surgeons. If I'm learning in school, and we're learning as a whole that smoking is not good for us, and smoking indoors is even worse. It causes emphysema, asthma, and other issues, allergies, heart disease, on and on and on, not to mention cancer. So if you'd rather be in a smoking environment and then end up having cancer and having chemotherapy to treat the cancer because you worked in a smoking environment, or don't you rather just take it out at the root of the issue? Am I the enemy of the surgeons, the asthma doctors, the lung cancer people? Am I? So why do you preach preventive medicine? What do you teach your patients when they come to see you in the office? Don't you talk to them about the importance of quitting smoking? Certainly not smoking around children, you pediatricians. Don't you teach these things to your customers, otherwise known as patients? What is the point of education? So, when I met Alexander, aunt and uncle, before Alexander was conceived, they are smokers, or at least they were, and they would smoke and just throw their cigarette butts out in the yard, all over the yard, all over the yard. And this was painful for me to watch, painful. But because I had been kicked out of my own house on Dove Lane and was left out there like a homeless veteran, if it hadn't been for the World Gym membership, I would have been in my car I was told by a Brazilian couple who worked in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. They said, "Oh, I know somebody you can stay with." And this is how I met Alexander's father. Okay? While still reaching out to our government. Like, look, what's happening here? I'm being kicked out of my own house. Got out of the military honorably. Discharged. These people want to incarcerate me, want to make me look like a troublemaker. I'm not. I'm not dealing dope, doing dope. I'm not threatening anybody like I'm being accused. I had a school administrator accuse me of being a threat to many others when I was making my phone calls about omega-3 and making my phone calls to the cereal companies about considering taking out the artificial colors and flavors and artificial preservatives and using natural vitamin C and vitamin E as a natural preservative. I was being blamed for the opposite of what I am, and I will not have it. Even if I have to bring it up to the attention of our government. Because y'all complain about the government, and a lot of you are a bunch of hoodlums. You complain about the government, and you don't want to be the change you want to see in the world. So it pained me to see cigarette butts out there. So I took Alexander's cousins, when they were still little, Alexander's age, even younger. And I was like, come on, kids, let's go pick up these butts. Because I've done beach cleanup before. And I've worked with children as a volunteer in Fort Clayton in Panama when I was 15 years old. I worked with the special needs children. And these children that Alexander's cousins were not special needs. But, you know, some people are full-grown adults and they act like they're special needs. When special needs people are actually far more intelligent. But they're labeled as retarded when they're not retarded. The retarded is the people who are, you know, normal, but they act like they're retarded. That's what I don't understand, that label. People who are mentally, what do they call it? What they call it, retarded. They're not retarded. They're actually gifted children of God. My brother Stephen was able to see things, and he was a special child. But he was retarded according to the language that we speak among us. Special children are gifted. So I volunteered when I was 15 years old. And I'll volunteer. But I don't want people taking advantage of me. I don't like it. And I don't like it when you use children to pay your way. When I went to Georgia with Alexander's father, before Alexander was conceived, I went to Georgia because this young lady was having an issue with the court and needed some assistance. So I did not know what I was doing. I never claimed to be an attorney, but I said, okay, I will help you. I don't think it's fair for our country to be letting people here illegally only to take advantage of them. I don't think it's fair to be letting people in here legally to exceed your capacity by taking benefits away from people who were born and raised here. I don't think that that's fair. I think that we need to understand that there's other countries. And the United Nations needs to take a good look at which countries are willing. This is what I don't understand. Okay? NATO, for example. NATO and the United Nations are friends since the Cold War. Okay? And NATO and the United Nations have known about these issues for a long time. We know what's been happening in Yemen. But I don't want to sound like I'm schizophrenic, because all of these things have been happening simultaneously. Okay? Simultaneously! And we are scanning the earth. You're not my boss. I have a boss of boss. And he's the one I answer to. He's the one who delegates to me. Look this up, look this up, look this up. Okay. So when I went to Georgia, I never said I'm an attorney. It was brought up to my attention. I don't think it's fair for our country to be letting everybody and their brother in. One day, which is today, one day, okay? But we've got to smooth things out. We've got to look at everything, okay? Who was here first? The Native Americans. Who brought black Afro-Americans here? The Europeans who felt like they were too white for the sun. And they were too fluffy for working out in the field. So they needed Afro-Americans to do the work, the hard work for them. They felt that they were just too not strong. That's not their job. That's not their job, because they're too white. You know, they just cannot get tanned. You know, because eventually they'll look like the Mexican people. Oh no, that's not me. That's not me. I'm white. They're Native American. They're black. They go out there in the sun. Not me. I have been evolved, and I'm a superior human being, right? I'm superior. I'm not going to go out there in the sun. That's how they thought back then. But in the book of Jeremiah 31, it says that we are not going to be paying for our parents' sin. So, that's that. The blood of Christ was already shed for you on the cross. So get over it, people. Get over it. Do you understand? The children's teeth are not going to be set on edge because of their parents eating sour grapes. So if my parents were not perfect, I'm not going to be paying for a crime, okay, for not being perfect, for being broken. Or Alexander, because I was broken, Alexander came from brokenness. It says so even in the Old Testament. Old Testament. It says that the children are not going to be paying for their parents' sin. So NATO tells these other non-nuclear countries to host American bombs for them. You host American weapons for them. Even though you don't have control, America has the code. So, host it for them, okay? Be a good sport. So if NATO has that ability to do that, why can't NATO and the United Nations address these issues, since we're having mass immigration and disorganization and destabilization of our economies simultaneously? We cannot expect America to be hosting everybody and their brother simultaneously. We don't have the resources. We don't have the land capacity. Do your math. People here in America, they don't want to go anywhere else, okay? People here in the South that were born and raised here in the South, whether they're black or white, they like their South. They don't want everybody and their brother to come in here either and take their resources away. They like Mexican restaurants. They love their Mexican restaurants down here. They love it. And they don't want to take the migrant jobs away from the migrants. They don't want to do that. They don't want to take the jobs away from the people who work out there as in agriculture. No. People like that. They welcome that. It's a win-win situation. Mexican people are hardworking people. They like their restaurants. They know food. They know business. You know, the Southerners love Vietnamese people because Vietnamese people will get up at some wee hour in the morning to go fishing. Okay? Because they're experts at fishing. And they're experts in business. These ethnic stores. Okay? And the South loves people from the Middle East. Okay? They love them. Because people from the Middle East have money. Okay? A lot of these businesses benefit from people from the Middle East because they come through and they do business. People in the South love Chinese people. Absolutely. So I want to hear that China's our enemy. Everything comes from China. I'm willing to bet I take off these shirts. Most half of my clothes is going to be from China. I don't want to hear that China's our enemy and that we need to be going to war with China. And this is why we're justifying having these bombs. Oh, that Russia's our enemy. The Russians infiltrated. And this is why President Trump won the presidency. Oh, if we have such a good national security, how did the Russians infiltrate? What is the point of having people trained in lying, cheating, and stealing? What good does it do? Does it really prevent infiltration? It has come from your own mouths. Not only that you get paid to lie, cheat, and steal, you get trained to do that. it has come from your own mouths that there's a cyber threat among you nations with your intelligence. The Foreign Agency for National Security of America. But National Security for America, but it's Foreign Agency with regarding foreign matters. Folks, I'm here to tell you that I've been scanning and I'm listening for these keywords. Lying, cheating, and stealing. Legally, according to your own laws that you violate. You're violating your own laws that are man-made. So why does it apply to some and not to others? Why is it that we have mass incarceration and we're imprisoning people for a traffic violation because they're here illegally, which our country allowed with all of this intelligence that we have? And national security. Alexander's family came here from Brazil because they said that the police officers were poorly trained and they were shooting random people dead. Missing the target. Shooting people in their homes, through windows, in their cars, pregnant women, dead, victims. They had nothing to do because these people were not properly trained. So, they didn't stay in Brazil and contact their own Brazilian government and bring this up to the government, their own government's attention, the Brazilian government. Mr. President or Mrs. President. This is Sana Oliveira and Jim Oliveira and Derciso Oliveira and Genesee Oliveira and associates. The Brazilian community. We want to approach our government as Brazilian people, concerned citizens, because we fear for our children. We fear for our children's welfare and well-being. Would you please retrain your police officers? So guess what's happening here in America now? The police officers don't get paid enough for what they do, for one, because our American government doesn't have enough money, because we've spent it a lot on bombs, which could go off because we have cyber issues. So is lying, cheating, and stealing really for the benefit? We need to retrain our agents. And we need to protect them against our own government and foreign government. There needs to be an international law that will follow the law that it has created to protect agents who are putting their life on the line for their national security, whether they're foreign or domestic. Or, better yet, combine our intelligence so that we can together scan the earth against our own enemies, foreign and domestic. Because combined intelligence is better. And not lying, cheating, and stealing, but with truth and light. And God is our central. He is in your very DNA, whether you believe it or not. Whether your skin is brown or not. So, the Oliveiras didn't do that. They came through Mexico and settled in. And when I met them, that was their state. Illegal. Living quietly among them. Brazilian people are very lively people. They have such good food. I don't have a problem with Brazilian people. Never have. But I don't like hypocrisy among you. And to be judging me and retaliating against me because one of your own went back to Brazil. Let me tell you something, Brazilian brothers and sisters. Your very own Darciso wanted to go back the moment I became pregnant. Your very own Darciso wanted to go back and made it abundantly clear for 3 years that we were together. He knew I liked cooking my frittata, which I taught Daniel how to make. And I love Daniel. He is a sweet, sweet child of God. And his sister. I love them. But especially Daniel. Why? Because Daniel trusted me. He came to me. And he could see right through me. And he's a blessed child, just like all children. But Daniel is very special. And Daniel was a good seed. And I knew that it was okay for me to have Alexander because of Daniel. So it was because of Daniel. So Alexander had not been conceived when I was taken to Georgia. All of these things happening simultaneously, folks, okay? But I'm keeping up, okay? I will highlight it for you. I don't lose track of anything. No. When I was taken to Georgia to see about this lady that had been incarcerated for a traffic violation, I knew that it was wrong. I met a preacher, I think that they're called Father. He was a preacher from Episcopalian church. And that's when I learned that they are allowed to get married, unlike the Catholic priests. They're actually priests that are allowed to get married because they believe in balance and harmony, and they believe in family. And they understand that it's not realistic for a man to be single. They have needs. So I learned that about the Episcopalian priest, and I was enlightened. I believe he was Episcopalian. I don't have a religion. I'm a non-denominational Christian. I always have. And when I tried to join the military, again, as a reservist, they were trying to force that I was a Lutheran. I said, excuse me. I told you I went to a Lutheran church. I didn't say I'm a Lutheran. I said I am a non-denominational Christian because I believe in the cross, in the Christ who died for our sins already, long time ago. It is done. So, I don't like anybody putting words in my mouth and bending the truth. When I was having my end-of-year report in the military while still on active duty, I had Sergeant Bateman exaggerating that I spoke Italian. And I told Sergeant Bateman, I said, no ma'am, you misunderstood. I never said that I spoke Italian fluently. I specifically said I attended an Italian institute, Enrico Fermi, in Panama. I never said that I spoke Italian fluently. I speak Spanish fluently. I learned some Italian, but I'm not fluent in Italian. And I don't want to have that in my end of year report, because if somebody needs a translator in Italian, I ain't gonna be it. So I wanted her to take that out, and I don't know if she did or not. But also my end of year report, after I signed it, when I went to get the actual copy after it had already been approved, I noticed there was a typo in my middle initial. Instead of C, it was E, as in energy. E. And it stuck. And I couldn't change it, because it had already been signed and approved and all of that, or whatever. So I kept it. And when I got out of the military, my rank, it still is, E4. And I am Messenger E4. I don't want anybody putting words in my mouth or exaggerating my skills, because that does not impress anybody, and it comes back to bite you. So when I say that I can do something, it's because I believe that I can. That I can either learn it or I can do it. So I don't want anybody saying that I speak Italian. No, I speak some Brazilian Portuguese, because that is what I chose to learn when I was given the opportunity to learn it, besides my native tongue in Spanish. So I have always desired to go to Italy and Spain, but that's a separate subject. That has nothing to do with anything else. So I did attend. I was the only one in my household that attended an Italian institute, Enrico Fermi. Why me out of my siblings? Why only me? My mom said that because my father wanted me to attend this Italian institute. But there's a lot of things that, growing up, my mother told me that I had Italian in me, and it turned out that I have more Irish than I have Italian, and I have black Afro-American in me, but it comes from my father's side, so she didn't know about it. And my mother raised me to be Caucasian, and when I went in the military, I had a test, and it tested positive for sickle cell trait, and that comes from black ancestry. And I told my mom, I said, I'm not able to donate blood because of this. My mom said, no ma'am, there's no black in you. And I was like, I mean, if I do, what's wrong with that? I just think do you see this? But the children should not be having the teeth set on edge because of their parents eating sour grapes. See, my mom was raised like that. She did not know that my father had black in him. And to me, it's like all of this racism, I haven't raised my children to be like that at all. And it's criminal to do that to children. It's criminal. You're robbing the children of health and happiness. And I see less and less of that. But it was like that still. So I found out my father, my biological father, had black ancestry. After I did that test, I became interested in learning a little bit more. And so it was, my great grandma had black in her. And so it was far back, but if we all go far back, we're all going to find out that we have the same root. Okay? So don't do this to the children. But my mom didn't know. She was raised like that. She didn't know. God bless her. I don't want to embarrass my mama. But it cost me a lot of pain. It cost me some deep pain when I felt like my mom didn't want me to accept that about myself. It's like, it's a beautiful thing that to know where you come from. So when I went to Georgia, I met a lot of Brazilian people, and was fascinated by the culture. And they have this in Marietta, the town Marietta, had a Brazilian, or has a Brazilian store there. And I tried all kinds of delicious food. And I was like, this is a beautiful town. It's beautiful. And some people were concerned about the Brazilians there, the people who were there illegally and were trying to get legalized. And I thought that, if it's a win-win situation for the city, why not let people live in peace? And if our country is letting people here illegally, and they're already here helping the economy, then let them pay taxes and let everybody live in peace. They're already here. So that's how I felt about it. But I've never claimed to be an attorney. I'm not cut out for that job. I don't want to. That's not my job. I am a messenger. And so, Levi, the tribe of Levi, the third tribe, is the priesthood. And the reason why they were chosen to be priests is because they're the third. Because the number 3 and the number 4 add up to number 7. When you add it, when you multiply it, it equals 12. And this is why 3 and 4 is important, and 7 and 12 is important. The last will be the first. And the reason why Israel, Jacob, blessed Ephraim first before Manasseh is to fulfill that the last will be the first, like it was done unto him. And so, and the reason why Yeshua is a high priest, but also from the line of Jesse, David, Judah, is because it's the 3 and the 4, and it's the priesthood from the Levites, because the 3 and the 4 coming together, but also coming together with the Gentiles, being Ephraim, which is the last of Joseph, and both bold, very stubborn, had to be righted. So, because Peter didn't want to do it. Peter saw the sheet coming down, and the sheet is not like a blanket, okay? The sheet that Peter saw was a sheet as in a scroll with all in it, all of that in it. And Peter was like, I'm not doing that because that has a lot of stuff that I'm not willing to do, Father God. And if you say no to God, you're against God. That's Antichrist. So this is why, because of God's mercy, Paul was sent to the Gentiles. And this is why the last will be first, because when we go up through Gamma, the letter Gamma is Dalet from the inside, but 3 comes before 4. That's why the last will be the first. The Gentiles go through that same door, but they go through Gamma from the inside. The Jews have always been there waiting for the Gentiles. So, I forgive y'all for doing all of this, disorganization and shenanigans among you. I forgive you. I forgive everybody, okay? But don't think that Alexander's going to be your ticket. No, it's not Alexander. It's me. So let the children be. Do not be sacrificing children as collateral. And I am not going to be crucified or imprisoned because that already happened. God is a God of freedom, not oppression. This brainwashery of yours among you. So that was that for going to Georgia. I liked it. I liked Marietta. I liked what the Brazilians were doing over there in Georgia. I felt that that young lady should have never been imprisoned for a minor traffic violation. I don't think that, it's just police officers are following orders, okay? Don't think that police officers aren't following orders, But now, some attorneys even are criticizing police officers for being military police officers when they're supposed to be civilian. Well, what we need to understand is that military wants to infiltrate in that too. This is what I want to address to NATO, okay? If NATO is, I'm not going to say mandating, but asking these non-nuclear nations to host nuclear bombs for the United States, while the United States has the code, and the CIA has been aware in national security that there's this cyber threat, because foreign governments have infiltrated or have a bug on us and vice versa. Do you see what y'all are doing? Let me tell you how I see this, okay? Let me tell you, and I will tell you to your faces, okay? If you invite me, I will tell you to your faces. I'm not afraid, Here we have FBI agents, or not FBI agents, the CIA agents, telling us, the public, that they're trained to lie, cheat, and steal. That's what they do for a living. That they get paid to counterfeit, to commit forgery. All of this is criminal, but they have the authority to violate man-made laws that were created to castigate the people. And we have mass incarceration for petty crimes, oftentimes, or mistaken identity. Or debt. So, the CIA, the Central Intelligence Community, is a foreign agency that looks after, supposedly, national security of the United States. But they sent agents to foreign countries to spy on foreign countries. And then you say that China's our enemy. When you're sending people to China, when you're sending people to Russia, and you're telling the servicemen and women that we have to go fight against the enemy, when you're sending people to the Middle East, to these agents. And then we have somebody like Mr. Edward Snowden, who had to leave the United States because y'all flagged him as a traitor when he was actually pointing out that there is a criminality within the very institution that's supposed to be looking after the welfare and well-being of our American citizens. There should be a law that protects our agents. Because if there's not going to be a law that protects our agents, the agents need to question themselves. Is it worth it being executed? And sometimes it's not even by a foreign government. It's by their own government. It's like their own government is betraying them. Because you get paid to lie, cheat, and steal, and counterfeit, and forge, so you can get away with murder. So there needs to be a law. So just like NATO asks these other non-nuclear countries to host American weapons that are potentially activated by American government, not by them. If somebody said, Susan, catch this. Do you think I'm going to want to host your bomb for you? Oh, hell no. I'll be like, here you go, sister. You keep it. Bye. Like Bonquiqui. I love Bonquiqui. I love Bonquiqui. Yes. Absolutely. Bye. That's the way sometimes you have to be. Just like Charity told me, Miss Susan, had you been a black woman, this wouldn't have happened to you, because this wouldn't have happened to my mama. Because sometimes black women have this attitude like, excuse me? No, you just didn't say that. No. Get out of my way, okay? You're not going to take my kid away from me. You know, and that's the way sometimes you have to be. It's the truth. So, I'm learning from y'all. I'm just learning and observing, and I'm learning human growth and development from humanity. So, NATO is asking these non-nuclear countries to host bombs that are American bombs. That American government, military, developed with hard-earned American taxpayers' money, taken away from American people and the needs of the American people. Just like all of these other nations, India, Pakistan, other England, France, Saudi Arabia, has these nuclear weapons, Russia. What are y'all trying to do? Are y'all trying to blow up our earth? I don't think so. Because then you can say, oh, it was a cyber attack. I don't think so. Don't use that as an excuse. Because you get paid a lot of money to lie, cheat, and steal. You better start speaking truth. Because that's going to pay you. Okay? Not the lying, cheating, and stealing, because that's the end of that. Because if our government is going to be putting people in jail for the rest of their lives for either a crime they didn't commit, because the people who get paid to lie, cheat, and steal can say somebody did something that they didn't and let them rot in jail for a crime they didn't commit. It has been done before, and it will continue to happen unless we do something about it. Mass incarceration is not healthy for any country. It only benefits the people who are in that industry of privatized jails. These individuals who are making money off human beings that don't deserve that lifestyle, because they're money-hungry people. We'll find out who they are, who are privatizing DHR, which is the equivalent of jail. The majority of people in jail are former foster kids. Do you think that this is an example of a country? Do you think that you can look in the face at other nations and call yourself an example of a nation by having that behavior? No. That's not manly at all. That's very cowardly. Okay? Taking advantage of people, putting them in jail for crimes they didn't commit, or for petty crimes, or for debt. When your own intelligence community is getting paid to lie, cheat, and steal, and do counterfeiting of documents and forgery. And all of this is being said to the American public. And the American public sits there and does nothing about it. We're not going to win this with arms. No. Not with weapons. No. We're going to win it with truth. We're going to win it with the light of God. Because they will light. They will light shine the light on us. Their light. And anything can be mixed and matched. Anything can be concealed, and anything can be covered, and anything can be mixed, and anything can be altered. The date, the order, the why. I don't want any of my record to be concealed. I have nothing to be ashamed of. What has been done has been done. Because God allowed it. But let it be the last time that you use people as a guinea pig for your scientific experiment. If you want to experiment on anybody, experiment on yourself. Be a man. Our people in jail have been used as guinea pigs for the scientific elite. This is why you have mass incarceration. This is why you have kids in DHR, because they're used for the scientific elite. Because their parents are not there. They're in the to and from, and parents lose track of where their kids are. There should be a law at international level that prohibits this. Because that's a violation of human rights. So, NATO is asking countries to host American weapons for which they have no control over. And we have the danger of this cyber security issues. My question again, do you think that lying, cheating, and stealing for a living is the solution? If it were, we wouldn't have the cyber issues that we have. I do believe from the bottom of my heart that these cyber issues we have is because you know that they have a bug on us, and they know that we have a bug on them, and the whole thing is an excuse for you to wash your hands off of something very dirty. We should have been disarmed mutually through an international law that should have been passed a long time ago. Should have been passed a long time ago. That, look, these nuclear weapons, since Hiroshima, okay, this is not good. And so sometimes these countries have these nuclear plants for energy as their excuse to be dealing with nuclear material, because they can disguise as, oh, this is we're using it for this nuclear plant. But why is it that the United States and France and England can have the advantage, and Russia having all of these warheads and all of this advantage, and you're not letting other countries develop their own weapons because you feel that they have a different agenda. Why did you develop them to begin with? Because they're just wanting to keep up with the Joneses is what they're doing. Because they're like, hey, we're being belittled here. That's why we're getting picked on. That's why they've been able to take advantage of us, take our land, and treat us like morons, because they feel like they've got these big manly weapons and we ain't got none. But we're going to figure it out. They're trying to keep up with the Joneses. So, you started it. I believe that there needs to be an international law for mutual disarmament ASAP. I would not want to host somebody else's weapon. Not that it would make a difference anyway, because if my neighbor country had a weapon from another nation, if that bomb goes off, we're all going to go. Just one. And they have many. And now they're concerned about, Pakistan and India. That they have the same animosity against one another, just like Israel and Palestine, for similar issues. Let us go back to 1947, okay? Let us go back to the partition plan of these countries. This is why President Eisenhower came to me, in front of me. I'm not making this up. When I tell you M&M equals E, and that E equals M&M, and that's mem to simplify for them, which equals water, believe in me when I'm telling you. I'm not making this up. I would not risk my son. But if you're using my son, then all of y'all are cowards. You're not going to get away with this by taking children and using them for your war games among you, because you're not man enough. Why don't you come and fight me personally, one-on-one? I'm 5'1". Come fight me personally. You want to beat me up? Come on, let's have at it. Leave the children alone. All of them. Because they're not your future prisoners. So that you can feed your luxuries. How cowardly. So you can go on expensive vacations and feed your mouths and your gluttony. So, NATO can very well ask the different nations, instead of hosting weapons of mass destruction, asking them, would you please be a sport? Would you please see if you can afford to have X amount of people stay with you and help them while we are helping their country stabilize their country, rebuild their country together. Would you please be a sport? See how much you can afford. Not force it, no. But then we need to figure out, why are these people fleeing their country? And address them. Let them know, hey, you know what? You're violating international law. You're violating your own people's rights. So, you can be judged, you can be tried in court. All of you and your politicians. By our court. International law. You're violating it. You're violating your people's rights. So, if you want to help your own economy, don't cheat your own people so that they'll stay and help your economy grow. That's why y'all are unhappy. And you keep cheating your people because you don't have enough money, because you're cheating your people and you don't have enough money, and it's just a downhill spiral. So stop. If you need money, ask. We will help you with money. And then NATO and United Nations can talk to the different nations when they get to gather in their meetings. You know, gather, and I've seen how you gather. It's a very dark room with no windows, and y'all need natural light, okay? Instead of those artificial lights that puts everybody to sleep, have some natural light coming in there. That's God's gift to humanity. Use solar energy for your building and have some bright light to stimulate the senses. Because the few people that you have in these meetings are half asleep, and it's just few people. Gather everybody. So everybody's stimulated and alert with a natural light. And everybody can talk together, talk to one another, and exchange ideas. Oh yeah, you know. If that nation's government is violating the people's rights, and that's why everybody's needing to flee, then that nation's government needs to be brought and tried in court, international court. That would be the end of that. That would be the end of the dysfunctionalities among you since the beginning. But you know why they don't want it? And they who? The people who develop weapons of mass destruction. They don't want that to end because that means the end of war. Oh, how are we going to continue our industry? We're not going to continue to make bombs, and we're all going to go out of business. We're not going to make planes, warplanes, and warheads, and we're not going to develop bombs and guns, and that means that our salaries are compromised, people. That's not what we want. Otherwise, it would have happened a long time ago. So who's the enemy? You can take the materials that you're using to make weapons. You can use that material to make more drones, to go into the oceans and explore your own ocean. Find ships that have been sunken. Learn about your own earthly culture, which will be alien to you. Explore your own that God has given you, your own vessel that has treasure in it, buried, sunken. Why do you neglect your own to go somewhere else? If God had wanted you to be from Mars, He would have put you in Mars. But Mars does not have the gifts that Earth has. Earth is actually the fourth. The sun, in that order, the sun. Without the sun, we wouldn't be here. And God is not the sun. No. We're like a cell within a solar system cell. But we, Earth, were chosen to be the vessel for humanity. Our ship. And there's treasure in our own oceans. There's so much cleaning to do and so much work to do, and you haven't even gotten started because you're stuck thinking that you're going to be out of a job. No, you're not going to be out of a job ever. Ever. The work is never done. It's never done, because as we evolve and we change, our needs change. And we're supposed to be evolving for the better, not for the worse. We're not supposed to be self-destructive people. So if you're following the order to self-destruct, you need to question who wrote that order. If a doctor gives you a prescription for a lethal injection, would you take it? If a doctor wrote you a prescription for a lethal medication, would you take it? Would you put yourself in front of a gun that's about to fire? Why do you send your people to fight a war among them? Would you sit on top of a bomb that's about to go off? So why do you ask nations to host a bomb for which you have the control? And then you say that our national security, our CIA, they're aware of the cyber conflict that we've had, the cyber threat. But why? They are well trained. We shouldn't have these things if they were well trained. But they're trained to lie, cheat, and steal. If they were trained to say the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God, that I will not commit forgery, or I will not commit theft, I will not lie, cheat, and steal, I will not falsely accuse, I will not endanger my colleagues, I will not betray them, and I will not betray the people whom I am swearing to protect and defend, which is the American people. That I will report when and if I see unethical behavior, even from my superiors. I will report it, because my duty is to the American people, for the national security, for safety of our nation. Isn't that what Edward Snowden did? I think so. So there needs to be an international law that protects the agents. And I find it so silly, infantile, really, to have a foreign agency that is concerned about foreign matters and sends the agents who are trained to lie, cheat, and steal to go abroad to gather data to bring back, exposing them to death for the security of our nation. How is that for our nation's protection? We let everybody and their brother in here, legally and illegally. We do business with China. Everything we own just about comes from China. We deal with Saudi Arabia. We deal with... You know how many Russian Americans we have here in America who love their country? America and Russia. There's a lot of good things that come from Russia. So, wouldn't it be so much better to use our combined intelligence to scan the earth together, and not lie to the public within their nations that we are enemies and that there needs to be a war among us because you guys are up here and the people are down here, and you know that you're not enemies, that you're working together, but the people are thinking that they, for national reasons, for national protection, for patriotism, for the freedom of their country, that they are going to a war and willing to die because that makes you money for this industry of warfare. You're never going to be out of a job if you make planes and ships, and if you make drones, and if you make vehicles, because our times are changing and our needs are changing and we're evolving. So you're never going to be out of a job. You're never going to run out of a job if you invest your whole life into cleaning the ocean and maintaining it, because that's actually the most challenging part of the 5 S's. The sorting and the systematic cleaning. The most challenging part is sustaining, and it never ends. It never ends. We have to constantly wash the dishes, right? We have to constantly take a shower. We have to constantly brush our teeth. We have to constantly eat and use the restroom. We have to constantly do our laundry. We have to constantly sweep and mop. We have to constantly dust and vacuum. We have to constantly take off our makeup and put it on. We have to constantly do these things. Love one another. Love is the most important thing, and we know it. If it hadn't been for God's love, we would not be here. He impregnated Mother Earth with His children. He separated the light from the darkness in the beginning, to one day bring it all together back to Himself, to restore the earth. And that time is now. We have to understand that with truth and light, we shall do it right. We are God's children, and there is a God, and is one true God. He has no particular image, and we are made in the image of God, male and female, with equality among us. And yes, the man is the head of household. So have a Paul head and not a Peter head, okay? Don't think with your other head, because that's what drives these industries of child trafficking and pornography and human trafficking and prostitution. Peter didn't want to do it, but Paul did help. So let us get it done. I haven't lost track of anything. I know where my son Alexander is, and I don't appreciate children being used as collateral, being negotiated among you. If you want to see a change in your government, don't leave. Stand strong, Son of Man. Women, stand. With truth and light, and fear no man. Fear God only. He's your boss. Your ultimate boss. The one whom you will see one day. It's already happened. You were with me. We've gone into the womb of His heart. being birthed from His light to restore the earth, to deliver that which has been given to us freely because of His most mercy on us, because of His love. The gift of light, which is life. And believe He is with us on both sides. And I believe that we can stand strong and let our governments know without weapons, and let them know that we fear God only. And they'll know what to do, because we will be the change we want to see in the world. I believe that NATO needs to address these issues with the United Nations. When you all gather, you need to consider having more natural light and having more people at your gatherings to make it more lively, and have food and discuss it while eating, and have a true fellowship among you when you meet. Share each other's foods. Because when there's food at the table, you will linger a little bit longer. You will feel more welcomed and more at home, more at ease. And talk about these issues. If there is a country that's causing some issues, disrespecting their own people, violating their rights, then that nation's government, its officials, those who are mismanaging the people's money, they need to be brought to justice or warned, and say, you're violating your own people's rights, and this doesn't make sense because this is hurting your economy. Everybody's leaving your country. How are you supposed to run business? You're going to run your own self to the ground, and then they'll be thinking about it. Ah, okay. It makes sense. So, let's try that. Instead of asking non-nuclear countries, involving them in illegalities that they don't want to be involved in. If these countries have not developed their own weapons of mass destruction, it's because they are peaceful countries. Don't involve them in that. That's not fair. We need to address these nations to see which nation has room or the desire to volunteer to have X number of people enter their country with order, without forcing anything on anybody, and you will see that you will have some happy volunteers. Oh, you know what? We could use these people over here. We have a need for this, and everybody just volunteers to do it, no forcing anything on anybody. No. And then we need to find out why these people are needing to enter the country. Why are they fleeing their nation? What is their nation doing to them? Are they being bullied? Are they being harassed? Are they being robbed? Address that government so that can be rectified, so that we can put a stop at this mass disorganization before it gets started. So these people can return safely back home when and if they desire to do so. But that nation also needs to be restored, so we can use our God-given intelligence and our resources to restore our nations that are in need in the priority. Okay? Because these bombs, being in like strategic places and having our intelligence community saying, oh, they're cyber, it's like, so what is the intelligence for? If they have bugs on you and you have bugs on them, it's like a cyber bomb on top of the actual bombs to have an excuse to blow up the earth. Because y'all are suicidal, not me. I'm not suicidal. I'm pro-life since the beginning. I'm not a terrorist. Y'all are acting like a bunch of terrorists. Just look around your own dysfunctionality. What are you doing to Yemen? You've been bullying Yemen, taking advantage of the little guy, picking on your brother, instead of talking to those people face to face. Hey, we can help you, okay? We can help you. What do you need? We have the money. So instead of investing money on bombing them and guns to destroy them, to including the women and children, because you're a bunch of cowards, or you can say, you know what? What do you need? We have the money. We'll help restore. It would be a lot more cost effective, and it would be quicker. No more children dying because you men don't want to man up. I forgive everybody. Children should not be used as collateral. That's very cowardly, and they should certainly not be negotiated with among you. Thank you.